So you're ready to do a clutch replacement on your 5th gen Celica. You're in luck. This video is for you. It is 4 of my old videos combined together. I've trimmed out all the fluff so that you just have a step-by-step guide of exactly how to get your transmission out, replace the clutch, and put it back in. I've added some commentary of the things that I've learned, as well as added some additional footage that will hopefully help you fill in any of the missing pieces. So let's go ahead and get into the repair. Removal time. So of course, take out your battery tray. You're also going to want to take out your air intake box, and then moving from there, go ahead and get that fuse relay box out of the way, as well as that bracket. You're going to also need to take out your starter, and then you're going to want to detach your clutch master cylinder from the transmission itself. From here, anything basically that you can see that's connected to the transmission needs to be removed. So you'll have your shift control arms, as well as some sensors that'll have to be unplugged. So just kind of work your way through looking for anything that is still connected to the transmission. You don't have to necessarily remove everything, just make sure that they're up and out of the way and detached so that you can easily lower the transmission down. So here you can see I kind of just fold everything up and out of the way. I highly recommend that you go ahead and take your hood off your car. It's just going to give you way more clearance, make it a lot easier to drop that transmission out. If your car is a complete mess like mine, make sure that you take some time to clean it up as well. Once you have the engine supported, you can go ahead and start removing the engine mounts. So there is one at the front that connects to the engine as well as the transmission. And then there's another one that's on the top right-hand side of the engine bay. It can be a little bit tricky to get them out. As you're getting the main bolt and the top mount loosened up, if you're having a hard time actually getting the bolt to pull out of the engine mount, my tip for you is to actually raise the engine up just a little bit. So if you've got your engine supported like I do here, you can just pull it a little bit by tightening it and having the engine lift up. That'll allow you to get that bolt out a little bit easier. Once you get that top bolt out, then you can take the rest of the bolts out that are holding the bracket in. It's pretty simple and straightforward from there. After this, it's time to get to work on the underside. You're going to need to remove the brakes and some suspension parts so you can get the axles out, and that's what we're doing here. Use a lot of PB Blaster if you need it. It's really handy with rusty cars. Whew. All right, guys, so I just took the rotor and the brake pads, or the rotor and the caliper assembly off here. Now I need to detach these 3 bolts from the ball joint assembly, and then I just got the castle nut off the tie rod end, so I need to go ahead and get that pushed out. And then after that, I think we're ready to start pushing the hub out, which is great, or the axle out of the hub. And then I need to do the same thing on the other side. There's one 17 mil bolt that is really hard to get to. I can't use my impact gun on it, which sucks. So I need to get in there with a breaker bar to get that one loose. So I've got that soaking in PB Blaster. Basically everything that I need to get off is being soaked in PB Blaster because everything's so stuck. Passenger side axle has a carrier bearing, so you need to remove a couple of bolts in order to get that detached. It's pretty straightforward. If you also need to replace your axle, you will have to separate it from this carrier bearing if it doesn't come with a new one. So I do have some tips for you later on in the video if you need some help getting that apart. Alright guys, so what you're gonna see me doing is inside, I hope you'll be able to see it, but I can't move it because my hands are so greasy. There's basically, this is like a 2-piece axle. It's one piece, but it looks like it's 2 pieces. And there's a bracket in here that bolts up to the engine. What I did is, because I'm not reusing these CVs, is I hit on the metal, the round metal part on the inside closest to the transmission by that bracket, and I hit it this way just to separate that bracket from the axle. So it came loose really, really easy. And I should have safety glasses on under here, please. I know. It was so easy. Oh my gosh. Okay. And there we go. Passenger side axle's out. Those things slid out like nothing. So that is positive. Big positive. All right, cross members are out. So we've got everything loose from the transmission. And I'm gonna do one more double check of the top there. And then we're gonna come up with something to support this and get it out. Since we didn't have a transmission jack, we went ahead and just used an engine hoist and connected it with some high quality rope and wrapped that around the transmission and just lowered the transmission down to the floor. As you're doing this, just double check, make sure that you have clearance and that everything's been disconnected and you're good to go. Or rent a transmission jack if you would prefer to do it that way. Enjoy some nice B-roll of my all-track Celica while I talk you through a part of the video that was missing. So once we got the transmission out, I went ahead and removed the clutch cover and pulled out the clutch disc. And then I learned that I had issues upon issues, but this was the primary reason why I was not able to drive my GT-S Celica. Found the problem. We have a messed up clutch. So this piece of metal is just totally broken out. And then here's the spring. It's all shredded. And these are getting pretty shredded too. So good news, I guess. At least something was actually broken instead of taking apart the whole car for no reason. And I have all of this engine bay to clean up. I need to get all of the dirt and grease and everything I can off while it is available to me. I did replace the speedometer cable, which was completely busted. However, I did just find this on the transmission. My speedometer housing here is completely stripped and then it's broken, so I'm gonna have to find another one of these. Transmission seems great, honestly. It's shifting through all the gears, so that's perfect. And then it's just gonna be reassembly. So I have all the parts I need as far as getting the clutch and everything put back in. It's just a matter of having the time to do it again. Little dark under here, but since I went ahead and took the headers off, the main purpose of me doing that was to get this oil pan off, and that's because this was leaking really bad. And so I'm gonna I already took the pan off, but it's just held on by a couple of bolts right now to keep everything clean in there. But I need to reseal this whole oil pan, and then I'm gonna take the flywheel off and replace that rear main seal as well. And I think that's gonna take care of a lot of the leaks. And then I also have one coming from the top here. So there's some seepage here on the valve cover, and then there's some coming from back here, which experience tells me it might be the valve cover or it might be the seals in here behind the timing belt cover. So I really don't want to have to do that right now, but I'm going to try to find the sticker on the timing belt cover and see if it says when it was last replaced, because it honestly could be due for replacement anyway. I basically just started scraping and wiping off as much of the gunk as I could. And I mean, it still doesn't look super clean, but you would be amazed how much stuff came off of that already. So I also did the other side here, got the whole brake assembly back on and cleaned up a little bit. I still have quite a bit more to do, but all of that really heavy CV axle grease is off. On today's slate, I'm gonna finish cleaning up this oil pan and take it down and reseal the entire oil pan because it was leaking really bad. I'm gonna finally get this flywheel off. Last night I sprayed it with PB Blaster, and then today I'm gonna go ahead and take that off and replace the rear main seal back behind there. And then I have to get in here and get all of this scraped and cleaned up while it's accessible. After removing the flywheel, I got access to the rear main. So there are 2 gaskets. Make sure that you get both of them replaced. So the one that I have in my hand right now, you can get OEM from Toyota. It's like a black metal gasket. And then, of course, the regular rear main seal that's going to go right over the top of where that flywheel bolts to. So really important to replace both of those. Here's an example of a new gasket in the rear main. You're going to torque it to 82 inch-pounds. And then here is how you're going to torque the flywheel. Pretend like this has 8 bolts. So you're just going to basically do them in kind of a star pattern so that they're equally distributed. Torque those bolts to 65 foot-pounds, and you also want to apply an adhesive to the last 2 or 3 threads. Toyota recommends a 3-bond 1324 or equivalent. Update, I didn't record a whole lot of this, but check it out. I got the oil pan put back on, and while I had that off, I also replaced the rear main seal, and I took out the rear main housing, got that all cleaned up, made sure that there weren't any burrs or anything on it. It was definitely leaking, so I fixed one really big oil leak on the rear main, so that is awesome. There were a few things that I had questions on that I'm sure you guys are watching and you might have questions on this as well. The oil pan. I was like, is there a gasket for this oil pan? Is there not a gasket? I didn't know. There was a gasket on it when I took it off. I went to Toyota's website, I looked for a part number for an oil pan gasket, nothing. So that to me said, okay, probably didn't come factory with a gasket. Did some more research, asked around. You seal these with black silicone, that's it. So don't put a gasket on it, just the silicone. You literally need to make sure that the surfaces are perfectly clean, remove all the old material, and then make sure that once you put the gasket sealant on there, you put that on within 5 minutes. That is what Toyota says you need to do. So don't let it sit and get tacky. 5 minutes, put it up, and you should be good to go. Then with the pressure plate, those bolts get torqued to 14 foot-pounds. That's it. Before you install your transmission, don't forget to replace the throwout bearing. Definitely go with OEM. It's a lot better quality than the Exedy. What we have left is the axles and the cross members, and then of course, you know, buttoning up the tie rod end and that sort of stuff. Easy things. Once that's done, I can get the wheels back on. We can get the transmission filled back up with gear oil, get oil back in the engine as well. Let's continue on buttoning up T-split. The driver's side axle has a snap ring, so I used a little bit of multi-purpose grease on the snap ring just to make sure that it stayed down and in the correct position. You want the opening for the snap ring facing down. Once I had everything back on, I went ahead and put the wheels back on and got it lowered back onto the lift. What we ended up doing last night, we did get the axle in. So in order to get this in, the stock axles have a little lip that you can basically put a brass bar onto the CV housing right here, the silver part, and you can use a brass bar to kind of tap that into the transmission. The aftermarket ones are totally round and you can't do that. So what we ended up doing was we put the axle in straight as far as we could, and so we just tapped it very gently straight on. It went right in the transmission. A tip for you, I put multi-purpose grease around the snap ring, and the reason why I did that is that it holds that snap ring down because you want the opening to stay at the bottom when you're putting in the driver's side axle in this car. The passenger side axle has a carrier bearing with a snap ring inside of that bearing. You need to use 2 flathead screwdrivers and put that into the bearing and then use that to pry it out. Once you get that ring out, then you'll be able to remove the axle from the carrier bearing and install your new axle. I did a pretty poor job explaining it when I first recorded this video, and so I just wanted to redo that explanation. Another tip for you, if your sway bar end links and things are rusted like mine, what we ended up having to do was I sprayed the hell out of it with PB Blaster. Still couldn't get the sway bar links were turning together. So what we ended up doing was taking a torch and just heating up the nut itself so that it would expand enough to release off of that bolt. It worked, stuff like that. So that's what we ended up having to do. I fixed a leak in the transmission. The drain plug was leaking. Exhaust going in, fixing all the holes. And Toothless is gonna be ready to drive. I'm feeling very confident that we did this correctly. So we fixed a lot of issues in the transmission. It takes 2.6 quarts of the 75 W90 gear oil. There's, yeah, maybe a half a quart. So that was bad. Number 2, that clutch spring had popped out, and number 3 was the shift fork wasn't connected correctly. The bracket, the retaining wire had popped off, and so it was just kind of flopping around in there. A full clutch replacement on a 1990 Toyota Celica GT-S. I hope that you made it through without as many headaches as I had, but if there's something that you're hoping I was going to cover and it didn't come up in the video, drop it in the comments below. I'm always happy to help in any way that I can. If you love old school Toyotas and want to watch me continue to restore them and fix them up, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you want to help support the channel and just get a cool shirt, I do have the Legends Never Die shirt in my katiesgarage.com Celica merch shop. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one, and I hope you found this helpful. Bye guys.